Hello everyone, this is Steven and I will be discussing the topic on Module 8 regarding synthesis, the advocacy, social mobilization, and the program communication for this topic. In the development communication, the integration of the advocacy, social mobilization, and program communication forms a strategic framework for achieving sustainable behavior and social change. So these approaches, when synthesized, it reinforces each other to engage key stakeholders, promote policy support, and of course encourage community participation. So as discussion on this topic, I'll be having a bit by bit discussion on the advocacy side, how it connects with social mobilization as well as the program communication. So to start with, number one, complementary functions and the development communication. It says here that the advocacy helps us raise awareness and builds political and social will. The second one is the social mobilization. It engages communities and stakeholders to take collective action, while the program communication ensures consistent, clear, and culturally appropriate messaging to support behavior and social change. And then the number two is it integrates and creates a strategic approach. So integrated and strategic approach. So these three pillars work best when combined in a coordinated communication plan to influence policy, shift social norms, and empower communities. And the third one is where can we find the model or where can model be applied? So now considerations to this one are public health campaigns, like for an example, HIV awareness, COVID-19 responses, or the immunization drives. Second can be useful in the education sector, like inclusive education, comprehensive sexual education, anti-dropout campaigns for the education sector. And then it can also be used for environmental protection, waste segregation, the climate action change, and then or perhaps climate change advocacies. And this can also be useful for disaster risk reduction. An example for that are the community preparedness and resilience building, as well as emergency preparedness as well for calamities. So also, this is very useful model for the LGBTQIA plus rights and gender advocacy. We can give an example for this are the GSC awareness and policy lobbying, and the last one would be the youth engagement participation. Examples for that would be voters education and digital citizenship. So number four is the value of the developmental communication practice. This model promotes participatory, empowering, and evidence-based communication strategies. So these are the hallmarks of effective development communication. So, by definition and its core functions, the advocacy, this is where the deliberate process of influencing decision makers and public opinion to support a cause, policy, or program. So, the role of the DevCom here is to give awareness, shape the public policy, and help to mobilize support from leaders and institutions. An example for that are the UNICEF's first 1,000 Days campaign for advocates for maternal and child health policies in the Philippines. And we can also use for that for social mobilization because social mobilization involves engaging broad and broad stakeholders, communities, CSO, institutions to take collective action. So an example, the DevCom role for that is it empowers grassroots participation and builds community ownership and strengthens program sustainability. And the example that we can use for that is the Brigada Escuela. These are the program that used by the DepEd to mobilize parents, teachers, and communities to prepare the public schools before the school year starts. And then, of course, for the program communication, um, because as definition, program communication refers to strategic messaging and media use to inform and influence behavior in a specific program. So for the DevCom role, It ensures messages that are culturally appropriate, audience specific, and behavior driven. So, an example for that would be Department of Health risk communication strategies during the COVID-19 pandemic, such as the social media infographics and the video explanation explainers on the vaccination campaign. So to further discuss this one, we want to integrate the model in practice. So the synthesis of these three approaches allows for a comprehensive communication strategy that addresses individual, community, and structural levels. So in the advocacy, for example, as mentioned, it influences policy and decision makers, helps the public for lobbying and inclusive education, and for SocMob, it engages communities and networks. It can also mobilize or help the engage the youth. For example, clean up drive for climate action, and then for the program communication, it delivers consistent, targeted messages that is very useful. So advocacy, soft mobilization, and then the program communication. If we integrate this one, it can create a good communication strategy for the individual, community, and the structural levels. So again, where can this model be applied? So it can cut across with sectors where behavior and policy change are essential. An example for that, for example, in a public health setting, for the advocacy, we push for reproductive health legislation. For the SocMob, an example for that is barangay health workers conducting information drives. And the program communication would be health education videos and IEC materials and the like. So we have also examples here: inclusive education, environmental sustainability, and then the gender and LGBTQA rights. So for the gender, advocacy is the SOGI Equality Bill. SOC mobilization are the pride marches, student forums, and then the program communication would be the webinar series and educational posters on gender inclusion. So these are the samples on where can we use this model for a certain important social problem, or for example the public health, inclusive education, environmental sustainability, and gender equality. So to continue, the synthesis of the advocacy, social mobilization, and program communication offers a powerful and participatory model in DevCom. It provides a framework that links policy influence, community action, and effective messaging. So this triad can be adapted to various development contexts and challenges in the Philippines. So as development communication practitioners, using this model ensures that our communication strategies are inclusive, impactful, and sustainable. So before we end this module or this discussion, I would just like to share to you the discussion points. And number one is, what are the core distinctions and overlaps between advocacy, social mobilization, and program communication? Please cite an example for that one. And then the second is, how does development communication integrate all three approaches to empower communities and promote participation? Then the last would be, what role does digital activism play in the current communication landscape? So thank you so much for listening for this module 8, and then I hope that you can share to you your discussion points, and thank you once again.